In the Tower of London, on a May morning in 1536, a young queen walked calmly to her death. She was elegant, composed, and fearless, even in the face of the executioner's sword. Her name was Boleyn, the second wife of King Henry VIII and the mother of Elizabeth I. Her life has been told and retold for nearly 5 centuries, sometimes as a tale of ambition, sometimes of seduction, and sometimes as pure tragedy. But one truth remains undeniable, and Boleyn changed the course of English history. This is the story of her rise, her reign, and her ruin. And was born around 1501, most likely at Hever Castle in Kent. Her father, Thomas Boleyn, was an ambitious courtier who rose through the ranks under King Henry VII and his son, Henry VIII. Her mother, Elizabeth Howard, came from one of the most powerful families in England. From the start, Anne's life was destined to be different. Unlike many English girls of her rank, she was given a broad and sophisticated education. Her father recognized that Europe was changing, that courts were centers of diplomacy, culture, and influence. And so, he prepared his daughter to thrive in that world. By her teenage years, Anne was sent abroad. She first entered the household of Margaret of Austria in the Netherlands. There, she gained exposure to the refined world of continental politics and learning. Soon after, she moved to France, where she served Queen Claude, wife of Francis I. The French court was dazzling, filled with art, fashion, music, and poetry. Here, Anne mastered the French language, cultivated grace and charm, and absorbed the sophistication of Renaissance culture. When she returned to England years later, she was transformed. Unlike many English ladies, she had the wit, elegance, and confidence of a European courtier. She was ready to make an impression, and first entered Henry VIII's court in the 1520s as a lady-in-waiting to Queen Catherine of Aragon. By then, she was in her early 20s, fashionable, intelligent, and sharp-tongued. At court, Anne quickly drew attention. She was not considered conventionally beautiful, dark-haired, with striking eyes and a long neck, but her charisma was undeniable. She was flirtatious without being careless, clever without being arrogant, and mysterious enough to leave men intrigued. Henry VIII, by this time, was nearly 35. He was athletic, handsome, and every inch a king, but also deeply restless. His marriage to Catherine of Aragon had once been happy, but after many failed pregnancies, only one surviving child remained, Princess Mary. Henry longed for a son to secure the Tudor dynasty. When Henry noticed Anne, he was captivated. But Anne was no ordinary court beauty. She had seen what became of women who yielded to kings too easily. Her own sister, Mary Boleyn, had been Henry's mistress, and she was discarded without reward. And refused to make the same mistake. She would not be his mistress. She would be his queen. Henry was smitten. He showered Anne with gifts, letters, and promises. Surviving love letters from Henry to Anne revealed the depth of his passion, letters in which he confessed his torment at her absence and begged her to return his affection. But Anne remained cautious. She reminded Henry that she would only surrender her virtue if she became his wife. This demand set into motion one of the greatest political and religious upheavals of the 16th century, the King's Great Matter. Henry sought an annulment from Catherine of Aragon. He argued that their marriage was invalid because she had been briefly married to his late brother Arthur. But Catherine insisted she had come to Henry's bed a virgin. The case was taken to Rome, where the Pope, pressured by Catherine's nephew, the powerful Holy Roman Emperor Charles V, refused to grant Henry's request. Year after year, Henry waited, grew impatient, and grew more desperate. Anne, meanwhile, consolidated her influence at court. She became not only Henry's obsession but also his partner in politics, advising him, supporting his vision, and gathering allies. Finally, Henry made his decision. If the Pope would not grant him a divorce, he would take matters into his own hands. In 1533, Henry secretly married Anne. Soon after, Thomas Cranmer, newly appointed Archbishop of Canterbury, declared Henry's marriage to Catherine null and void. Catherine was cast aside, and Anne was recognized as queen. In June 1533, Anne was crowned in a grand ceremony at Westminster Abbey, riding through London in a golden litter while crowds gathered to watch the woman who had changed their king. In September of that same year, Anne gave birth. Henry was certain it would be the long-awaited male heir. But to his disappointment, the child was a girl, Elizabeth. Though Henry concealed his frustration, it was a dangerous beginning. Life as queen was not easy. Anne was a woman surrounded by enemies. Supporters of Catherine of Aragon despised her, calling her a usurper and a witch. Many saw her rise as the cause of England's break with Rome, and blamed her for the turmoil in the Church. At the same time, Henry's temper was unpredictable. He could be charming one moment and violent the next. And sharp wit and fiery temper often clashed with his pride. Her greatest challenge, however, was producing a male heir. After Elizabeth, Anne suffered at least 2 miscarriages. One, in 1536, was a devastating blow, a stillborn boy. Henry's disappointment was crushing. By now, Henry's eye had wandered to one of Anne's ladies-in-waiting, Jane Seymour. Unlike Anne, Jane was quiet, obedient, and submissive, qualities Henry found appealing after years of conflict with his fiery queen. And sensed her danger. She quarreled with Henry, accused Jane of trying to seduce him, and grew increasingly isolated. And had powerful enemies at court. Chief among them was Thomas Cromwell, Henry's chief minister. Cromwell had once supported Anne, but their alliance fractured over politics, especially the handling of church property after the break with Rome. Henry himself was growing weary of Anne's strong will and constant miscarriages. Cromwell saw an opportunity. If Anne were removed, Jane Seymour could take her place, and Cromwell would remain secure in the king's favor. In May 1536, Cromwell moved against her, and was arrested and taken to the Tower of London. She was charged with adultery, incest, and high treason, accusations almost certainly fabricated. 5 men were accused alongside her, including her own brother, George Boleyn, Lord Rochford. The charges claimed that Anne had seduced multiple men, conspired to murder the king, and committed sins too scandalous to speak aloud. The trial was a farce. The jury was filled with her enemies. Despite her eloquent defense, Anne was found guilty. The verdict was never in doubt. Anne spent her last days in the Tower, preparing for death. She prayed, received the sacraments, and spoke with those who guarded her. Eyewitnesses recorded that she showed remarkable composure, even humor, in the face of death. She was granted a unique mercy. Instead of the traditional English axe, a skilled French swordsman was brought in to ensure a swift execution. On May 19, 1536, Anne was led to the scaffold. She wore a gown of dark damask, a cloak trimmed with ermine, and a small cap over her hair. Before the gathered crowd, she gave her final speech. "I am come hither to die, as I am judged by the law. I will speak nothing against it. I commend my soul to God. I beseech you all to pray for the king, for he is a good and gracious prince." She knelt upright, without a block. The executioner raised his sword. With a single stroke, and Boleyn's life ended. She was 35 years old. Her body was hastily buried in an unmarked grave within the tower. Though her life ended in tragedy, Anne's legacy endured. Her daughter, Elizabeth, would one day become Elizabeth I of England, one of the greatest monarchs in history. Anne's downfall also left a permanent mark on England. The break with Rome was sealed. The Church of England had been born, and the monarchy had grown more powerful than ever. Over the centuries, Anne Boleyn has been remembered in many ways, as an ambitious schemer who lured a king from his wife, as a victim of politics and betrayal, and as a woman who, despite everything, showed extraordinary courage at the end. What remains certain is this: Anne Boleyn was more than just a wife discarded by a king. She was a force who helped reshape a kingdom. Anne Boleyn's story is a story of love and power, of ambition and downfall, of revolution and legacy. She lost her life, but through her daughter, she gave England one of its greatest eras. 5 centuries later, her name still commands fascination. Anne Boleyn, the queen who changed England forever.